Hello, welcome to the Raising Athletes podcast. My name is Kirsten Jones. I'm a peak performance and sports parenting coach, and I'm just starting year 5 of this podcast with Susie Walton called #Raising Athletes, where we love helping parents, coaches, athletes, authors, anybody who's working with kids and youth sports, talk about what are the things that are getting in our way, holding us back, helping us release those limitations and move forward. I'm also the proud author now, almost 6 months, of a book called Raising Empowered Athletes. And I've been speaking, the last several months, getting out hopefully into your community soon. So please follow, like, share Raising Athletes podcast and my personal page at Kirsten Jones Coach. So we can talk about all these things that matter most to us as parents and athletes and coaches. Today, I'm so excited to have my first NFL, well, no, that's not true. My second NFL football player on. I love talking to athletes who have reached the top of the game and understand what's in it in their mindset and how they got to where they got to. So welcome, Brandin Bryant. I'm so excited to have you on. Also, not only an NFL player, but also an author. So this is just going to be a great conversation.
Well, thanks for having me, Kirsten. I'm happy to be here. I'm very excited and thrilled to meet you and talk to you and hopefully be able to give something to your listeners and viewers here.
Yes. So let's start with you. I love hearing people's origin stories. And I grew up in the 70s. You're younger than I am, but playing multi-sports, back in the day, you played a bunch of different sports. Tell us about your journey and like how you got into football and what age did that start? Kind of take it from the top.
Well, I grew up in I definitely grew up in a football family from Omaha, Nebraska. My dad had 4 brothers. They all played football. My grandfather was actually like the first black man to play for the University of Nebraska back in the 1950s. So
Wow.
it was always a big deal to play football in my household, and it was always on TV. My uncles, my dad, my grandpa, my grandmother would always take me to local games, local Husker games. Whatever we could go to, we would go and enjoy it. And growing up, I had an older sister, so she didn't play football, but I had a neighbor who was great at football, and I remember going to watch him play when I was young, and he was just growing up. And it was just always something I wanted to do until it was time to do it. I remember I was watching Remember the Titans, and it was just it looked so brutal. And I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to play this. I was running track at the time. I was like, no, Dad, I think I'm good. And he was like, you know what, son, you'll play it, and you have to stick it out for one season. And if you don't like it, then you don't have to play anymore. But you can't quit that first season. So I started playing at the age of 7, and fell in love with it ever since. Yeah.
Young tackle
Yeah.
or just touch
It
at
was
7.
so I was 7 turning 8. It was that fall. I turned 8 in September, and it was tackle football right away at the North Omaha Boys and Girls Club. So I never actually played flag. Went straight into football. I didn't play much. It was 8, 9, 10. I was a younger, smaller kid, so I kind of was on the B team and played when we were maybe up by 20 or down by 20. So, I got in here and there, but I loved it and I had fun. And, I still have friends on that very team, on that 8, 9, 10 team that I'm still very close friends with today. So, it was something that just was a good match from the beginning.
So I love that you weren't great originally, like that. So there had to have been something in it that even though you weren't the star, even though you weren't getting all the minutes, what was it that the curiosity kept you going, even though you weren't getting immediate results?
I think it was just so I was a track runner first, and I was a good sprinter. I placed in the regional junior Olympics, qualified for the national junior Olympics at the same time frame. So I kind of knew that it took some work to be good at things, for a lack of a better phrase. But I knew from that point that you had to put in the work to see the results. So I wasn't good, and my dad and my grandmother would always just tell me just how proud they were of me because I was so young. So I was probably the only 7-year-old on the team, and the fact that I could compete with the 8, 9, and 10-year-olds at that age, they always supported me and gave me praise for just being so young and being able to do it. Kind of like just maybe gassing my head up a little bit or whatever. But it was good to have that support from the family just to let me know that it would get better at later times.
What age did you go, gosh, I'm actually really good at this, and this is like I could play at the next level? Like high school or middle school? What age was that?
So I was honestly like my journey was, hopefully we have time to get into that, but my journey was actually not the conventional journey at all. So
Oh,
um, in high school, I honestly didn't even make varsity until my junior year, and I didn't play until my senior year. Like I was just kind of my junior year, I was just kind of there as like a depth player. So I never really played, but I always had that, confidence that I would make it. Maybe it was bliss or whatever, but I always kind of believed in myself. But I had a stretch of little league football, maybe when I got to like 9, 10, 11, 12, where I was very good. And that was short lived, and then by the time I'm 11, 12, 13, other guys, they hit puberty before me. I was a late bloomer, and it didn't go so good for a while, up until like the seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th grade. It was just, I was behind the curve for a while, but yeah, I would say, man, I always believed, even though, like I said, maybe it was just ignorance or maybe me just kind of, you know, full of myself or whatever. But I always, thought I would end up being pretty good one day. But when I got into high school and my senior year, I played pretty well, and then I knew that I had a chance to play Division I football, maybe not the NFL, but it it was definitely a journey. It was a journey.
so I love that it. I mean, there's a great new book out, Adam Grant, and he talked about hidden potential, and basically what he found was actually early prodigies are not the ones that have the longest careers. It's those that have had to work at something for a longer period of time that actually have long-term success. And you're an exact example of that because, I mean, yes, you could have also been an early, prodigy and gotten to the NFL. But the fact that you didn't have it, I mean, junior in high school or a senior in high school and you weren't starting and you weren't dissuaded by that, you were kind of like, oh, it's okay. I'll keep going. Right.
Mhm.
Like that must have been the mindset that laid the foundation because the average athlete lasts 3 years or less than 3 years in the NFL, right? Is that
Yes.
still the right statistic? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. If that, it's they make it harder and harder every year it seems, But I think, I'm no expert on this at all, but I just think from something that I've seen from, child proteges or maybe, the guys you play with that are five-star recruits that make it to the NFL or Division I level, something happens where, they don't spend the time on development and skill development that those players who lack that at an earlier age did. So maybe it's burnout, maybe, guys that are just, putting in the extra effort pass them up. But it's something about those guys that are usually five-star players, child proteges, and, they're told they're so great forever, and then they kind of forget what actually got them there, and they don't work on that actual development, and then you see the other guys passing them up. And, it happens time and time again. So, like I said, no expert in it, but just from my study of myself, that's what it seems to be.
So I know things have changed in recent years with NIL, with the transfer portal, with all of that, but I still find it very fascinating to talk about the recruiting process. So talk about so if you weren't even starting until you were a senior, but you had a great year your senior year, how did recruiting go for you? And how did you make your final decision to go to Florida Atlantic?
Wow. So, being from Omaha, Nebraska, especially when I was there in 2000, when I went to high school in 2007 to 2011 when I graduated, it wasn't a very highly recruited area. The University of Nebraska kind of had given up on local players. The surrounding universities kind of weren't recruiting there as well. It's kind of a dead zone, no, maybe if you got lucky, South Dakota, North Dakota State, maybe a walk on in Nebraska if you were really good. But other than that, it's like no one actually bothered to come recruit the area. So myself, when I graduated from Omaha North High in 2011, I had one offer when it was all said and done, I had two offers. University of Nebraska Omaha, which canceled their football program pretty much the day after they offered me, and Wayne State of Nebraska. They offered me as well. So I had those offers, which turned into one, and I decided that I was going to go to the junior college. So I ended up going to Fort Scott Community College in Fort Scott, Kansas, which ended up being a great decision. And I actually redshirted there. I didn't play, but we had so much talent on that team that coaches and universities just coming to watch everyone, and they saw me at practice, and that's how I ended up at Florida Atlantic University. So wasn't the most recruited guy by any stretch of imagination, coming out of Omaha North High, and just made it happen from there. But it was it was a blessing, and all the things that needed to go right for me, went right.
So there's this theme that I'm sensing from you in that your ego doesn't get in your way. Like, a lot of people are like, well, I need a D1 offer. I'm just going to go where the D1 is. And you're like, no, I'm willing to go take a side step, what some people would say, to go to a junior college so that I can get to where I'm meant to be. Like, tell me about discussions with your parents or your family about making that decision, or do you remember like what you went through to say it's okay that I go do this so that I can ultimately get to where I'm meant to be?
Yeah. So my parents were honestly very supportive through it all. I was, junior colleges don't really give scholarships. They maybe give like they'll pay for maybe your room and board, or maybe your books, or maybe your tuition, but usually not all of it. Most guys depend on academic scholarships or Pell Grants. So my parents were actually very supportive of me going to Fort Scott, because they knew what the end goal was for me. I didn't want to put them through that situation of being like a not a preferred walk on, but a walk on at the University of Nebraska, where I would go and roll and try out, and then you know all that tuition has to fall somewhere. So I didn't want to do that, and I had an older sister who was also in school that my parents were paying for as well. So I thought this was a good idea for me, and I heard a lot of resistance from a lot of people. I remember the high school security guard coming up to me, who was pretty involved in the football team. He pretty much was like, "Hey, man, I think this is a bad decision. You're going to regret it. You're going to go to junior college. You're going to get lost in the shuffle, just like all those other guys, and you'll be back here in maybe a year, you know, trying to get a regular job around the city somewhere." And I took that as a challenge. I heard it from some coaches as well, and it was honestly everybody. Everybody was telling me I was making the worst decision. Like, choosing to go to a junior college as a qualifier is, it's kind of unheard of. I had the grades, obviously, so it was like, why are you doing it? Just go to Wayne State and play, and if you're doing good, maybe you can transfer to a higher school. And this is before the portal. But yeah,
Yeah.
just as far as you said about the ego, just I just had to have that mindset where I just it didn't matter what anyone thought of me, and I knew what that end goal was. Like, I had it. I wouldn't have said it was a vision board at the time, but knowing what I know now, like, I definitely had a vision board, even though I didn't know it was a vision board, and I always knew what the end goal would be. I just didn't know how I would get there, or what the journey would be.
So you're at the junior college, and Florida Atlantic sees you there, or how did you end up getting recruited there?
So, um, Coach Jeffrey Sims, was the head coach at Florida Atlantic University. And Carl Pelini was a defensive coordinator at the University of Nebraska. Carl Pelini was one of the guys who recruited me in Nebraska, but ultimately didn't offer me a scholarship. Carl Pelini then got the head coaching job at Florida Atlantic University, and Jeff Sims, he offered Jeff Sims a receiving coach job there. So those two guys knew me, and they came back to Fort Scott to recruit another player, and saw how I was developing and how much I'd improved over that short period of time, and gave me a scholarship, and the rest is history.
I can't even tell you how much I love this story, because I talk to parents all the time. And when I talk to athletes, and they're like, yeah, I don't want to go D2. And that coach is recruiting me. And I always say, the sports world is so small. Everybody knows everybody. And maybe the coach that's at the school that you don't care about right now gets the head coaching job
Yeah,
at your dream school. And
exactly.
if you snub him now or her now, then they're gonna tell, oh gosh, you don't want to recruit that guy. He's got a
Yep,
bad attitude. But the
exactly.
fact that you obviously handled that whole situation the right way, that a year or two later, he's like, hey, I'm still interested, and now I have the ability to make the choice. Like, that
Yeah,
is awesome.
yes. So yeah, it worked out. It definitely worked out, and I'm I'm grateful for that decision.
So tell us the story. What happens at Florida Atlantic?
So Florida Atlantic was it was a great choice going there. I went there because I knew that it was an up and coming program. Howard Schnellenberger pretty much founded the program, legendary coach, and he was retiring. So at his last season, they didn't do too hot. They went 1-11. So I knew, okay, coming in here, got an opportunity to
Rebuild.
make a difference. Yeah, got a, just got an opportunity to be a part of something special. And aside from all that, when I came on my visit, being a kid from Omaha, Nebraska, the Midwest, probably my first time really seeing the ocean, seeing the beach, just being in South Florida, like, it was literally like paradise. So it's like, besides all that, just the opportunity to go to a school, you know, be a part of laying the foundation, you know, leave your legacy, and you know, play early. You know, if maybe I would have ended up getting an offer from a Big Ten, Big 12, SEC school, ACC, who knows? Maybe I wanted to play till my junior senior year, but or maybe I would have been a 4-year starter. But at FAU, long story short, ended up being a 4-year starter at FAU. However, I did face some adversity. Tore my right ACL 2 times, which you know was you know very a very trying time for sure. But you know you just keep pushing and you keep going. And throughout all that, like I said, started 4 years. Ultimately, end up not getting drafted, but you know went to Seattle as a preferred free agent, and you know that's where the NFL career began. But you know, great decision going to FAU. I met some amazing coaches, some amazing friends. Uh, Probably 4 out of the 6 guys in my groom's party were actually teammates from FAU. So you know, it's just you know, friends for life. I recently bought property here, so I plan on being here. I met my wife here as well, so
Okay.
yeah, plan on
What
being
did
here a very
you
long time.
What did you major in?
I majored in political science and communication studies.
Okay. So maybe a little bit of a feeder into what you're doing now with writing.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Definitely those Gordon Rule classes paid off, you know. So yeah.
Okay, so let's go. I love this. Let's go on to your NFL career. So you're not drafted. How do you walk into that opportunity and know you're enough, and how are you going to fit in, and how are you going to make it? Like, talk to me about that whole process.
So it was honestly the same mindset of you know, and you know, I'm a firm believer in you know everything happens for a reason. Whether you see it, if somebody else reaps the benefits from it, or you do. I honestly am a firm believer everything happens for a reason. But I think of being able to go to junior college. That was I didn't express to you guys how hard that Fort Scott was. That was the hardest year of my life athletically. There were no rules in junior college back then. The coaches could do whatever they wanted. Every
Mm.
practice was hard. It's hotter in Kansas than you could ever believe, and you know you just learn how to just go and keep going forward. So by not getting drafted, I knew like okay, I've been somewhere where the odds were against me before, and I found a way to
Mm.
make it happen. I can do it again. And when I got to Seattle, I'm on a team that they went to 2 Super Bowls in the last maybe 3 seasons. And it was, you know, that's one of the best defenses of my lifetime, one of the best defenses of this generation, the Legion of Boom. So I'm on that team, and you know, you got a undrafted free agent expected to make this team, and being an undrafted free agent, you know, you come into the league immediately, rookie minicamp, and there are 100 guys there, and maybe only 15, maybe, you know, they draft 8 and then they sign 8 as preferred free agents. So maybe if you're 16 of those 100 guys survive to the next wave. So immediately, you know, you just see how cutthroat the NFL is. I'm here to beat out somebody who got drafted. The guys who are tryouts are here to beat out me who signed a preferred free agent contract. And on top of all that, there's only 53 spots that are going to make it to game one. And there'll be another 90 guys that come to camp in the fall. So it's like immediately you see how competitive it is, and everybody wants it just as much as you. So, you know, you just got to find a way to stay positive and keep believing, and, you know, just find those little things throughout the day where you can continue to improve and ultimately compete and, you know, show everybody what you got.
So can you think of a moment when, actually I want to hear both sides, but maybe let's start with the good, like in your whole journey, including high school, college, all the way through, what was the best game or moment, or like you look back and that's that one thing that you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I did this. I had this happen. Do you have
Uh,
one?
from a preparation standpoint, or just like in a game, or doesn't matter?
Anything. It doesn't matter.
Oh man, so the one of the best decisions I did make was, I would say, that moment where I decided to go to the Canadian Football League. Because if I went and did that, I think my career would have ended at that point. So throughout, you know, I came in the NFL 2016, and 2016 I bounced around with the Seahawks and the Jets, and then I get injured. I'm out all of 2017. Then I get a call from my agent in 2018. It was like, yeah, you didn't, you know, probably not going to get signed this year. Well, I think you should go to the CFL, you know, because if not, you don't have any film. You know, it's going to be tough to get back in the league. And was very reluctant to do that because it just, you're top of the mountain in the NFL, and then, no disrespect to the Canadian Football League, it's a great league, but it's not where you want to be you want to be an NFL player. So I ultimately, went there and, played well and got back in the NFL. But in between all that, maybe this isn't just a moment, but just having
Mhm.
the wherewithal, for lack of a better term, to talk to the older guys. I remember a conversation I had with Richard Sherman my rookie year, and he just gave me some simple gems on how to improve and how to stick around the NFL. And that conversation with him definitely you know uh, helped me grow as a player, and to help me take it to the next level. So
Do you remember what he said?
he simply told me, he said, to survive in this league, to improve, you have to have a routine. You have to develop a routine. No matter what you do, whether it's mentally, physically, recovery, you have to do it and you have to stick to it because that's what's going to set you apart, and it's going to compound over time to help you get the results that you want.
And so, did you create one, or did you already have one, or how did that
I
go?
had one, but it definitely evolved, after he told me that, I kind of just forced it. I was just taking his advice, and, I was like, okay, I could see what those older guys were doing in Seattle, how they would come in before they were required to, and what they would do and their routines and things they would do to separate themselves from others. And I kind of just tried to mimic it. Really, no rhyme or reason to what I was doing. I just knew I needed to be doing something. And then as I started to play, and I could see my deficiencies and see what I needed to work on, and you start to get a little older, and you see how important recovery is, and you start to also see the benefits of just how you can program your mind. So all those things that I would do that evolved over time to help me perform and just stay healthy and stay ready. But it was
I'm
always
I'm
evolving.
I'm guessing you were pretty naturally athletic, but like, how much did food, nutrition, sleep, recovery, mental recovery, physical recovery play into your success and long-term longevity in the league?
It definitely does because I was all at the way coming in the NFL as an undrafted free agent, you always have to prove yourself because you're the first person they want to replace. There I think maybe a third of every NFL roster turns over every season. So, you always have to be able to separate yourself from others. So just being able to find out exactly how I could do that and how I could stick around and, you know, just all those things. It's just so much that goes into it. But it
That's a
definitely
big
helped me out.
factor.
Was a
What
huge factor.
what does it feel like? Because again, I have a lot of parents and athletes who listen to this now, and we all go through ups and downs. And I personally have had jobs that didn't work out. I had teams that didn't work out with great coaches that didn't work out. What is your mindset when you played on 10 different teams in 10 years? Is that right?
So honestly, yeah, you're probably right. Including the CFL, probably eight from 2016 to right now. I'm a free agent right now. I've definitely played on at least 8 or 9 teams, including the CFL, for sure.
Right. So
Yeah.
how do you must have an amazing growth mindset to be okay, next, what's cut, like, how do you flip the page? I mean, that's like one of the biggest things that I work with my clients on, teen athletes mostly, but college athletes too, on, yeah, but I got cut, or I got hurt, or I have this headwind that I can't seem to figure out how to face. How do you look at that?
Wait, like the thing that, like I said, man, you got to believe everything happens for a reason. You have to believe it, and you have to see the benefits of your trials and adversity. Because if you don't, you'll dwell on the past, and you'll start to feel sorry for yourself, and before you know it, you're out the league. So you not only that, but you got to appreciate the journey too. One thing I've realized from unfortunately, well, I wouldn't even say unfortunately, just being a journeyman in the NFL, which my career has been, the journey has been the most memorable part. And I think that's what I remember when I get older is the fun I had, the trials, the adversity I went through, and all that, and just how each moment is so precious. Being on this team, the guys you meet, getting cut here feels like the end of the world, and then you bounce back, and then all of a sudden, you're playing the best
A
ball
good
you've ever
shot.
played. Yeah, so it can be tough. And you see a lot of guys that it ultimately, that is the reason that they just get tired of it. Like it's not worth it.
Hmm.
Like, I'm just unstable. I'm moving here. I'm moving there. You know, and then on top of that, it just, a lot of guys just feel like it's the NFL is just beating them down. It's just like you're constantly told that you're not good enough, you don't belong. Because that's at the end of the day, when you get released, that's what they're saying. Like, hey, you did well, but we found somebody better than you. So
Hmm.
at the end
Right.
of the day, that's how the business is. So you just got to be able to tell yourself that one, you got to believe in yourself. No one has these coaches, these GMs, these owners. They're not God. They can't tell you you're not good enough. They can't tell you you don't belong. And so you just gotta, respectfully take the criticism and get back to work. But you gotta believe in yourself. Like the story they always tell you when you get cut at first. Michael Jordan got cut from his high school team, and as common as that is, and as crazy as it sounds, it's true. What if
Hmm.
Michael Jordan did listen to that high school coach? Man, it's just
Hmm.
so you got to have that ability to respect the opinion and take the criticism and grow from it. But at the same time, you got to just be like, hey, I know what I got. Maybe they don't know it, but I know what I have here, and I'm going to keep working, and I'm going to get better, and I'm going to improve, and I'm going to prove myself right because I know I belong. I know I belong here, and I'm going to make it happen.
The journey too, and I mean, you're one of, I don't know exactly, but less than 1%, less than 3% to get to the NFL. What is
It,
the?
so I don't have this stat handy, but I believe that it's 1% of high school players make it to play in college sports, and then 1% of college football players make it to the NFL.
Right,
So I
you're in
believe
such,
it's something like that.
yeah, you're in such rarefied air. Like the fact that you've made it to the level and then sustained is incredible. And I have parents that say, well, what if my kid isn't going to make it to the MLS? Should I really be encouraging my 7, 8, 9 year old to be going for it if in fact they really probably aren't likely to make it? And I always say, you got to have a dream. and
Yeah.
and your belief in yourself, whether you make it to the MLS or the NBA or the NFL, that's not the point. The point is exactly what you've been talking about, which is the mindset that's required to get through life.
Hmm.
Like to be resilient and to say, gosh, I believe in myself and I'm willing to take a risk on me, and that will pay off in the long run, whether it's on the field or not.
Exactly. And I'm with you on that as well. You got to have a dream. You got to have something to shoot for. And, just like the old phrase goes, shoot for the moon, hit the stars, or shoot for the stars, hit the moon, however it goes. It's true. I'm sure every player that plays and goes to college wants to be a first round draft pick. They want to win the Heisman, whatever, whatever. And not saying that it's not possible. I'm sure, everybody could, but everybody won't. That's how, I always just think of that in my head. Like everybody can, but everybody won't. And I believe that, a lot of people don't. Of course, some people are, just born a little bit more athletic or genetically predisposed to do certain things better. But, if you're putting in the work for anything for 4, 6, 8 years, you're going to see some serious results. And it might not be exactly what you intended for, but when it's all said and done and you look back and you did everything you could, you're going to be content with the results. If that is indeed what you did, that you put in the results. So, I would never shy someone away from their dreams, no matter what it is and how far fetched it may sound, because you never know what could happen if you give your 100% of something, especially for such a long time. Like I was sorry, getting off topic here a little bit, but I was talking to a college freshman the other day, and he asked me for some advice, and I'm like, man, if you give everything you have for 4 years, anything you could achieve anything, but are you actually willing to
Do
give
the
it
work.
everything you have, and I think that's the kicker there.
Yeah. And I think we do is we have these limiting beliefs. And so, well, what if I don't make it? So I'm not going
Yeah.
to give it my all, even if you don't do it on a conscious level. Sometimes it's subconscious. And I see that with athletes now, they're getting hurt all the time, but it's actually a protective mechanism
Yes.
because
Hmm.
that way, then I don't have to not get chosen. If I'm
Yes.
injured or if I don't play the best, then I can say, well, or the coach didn't play me, then it's not my fault. but why not leave it all out on the field, do all the work so that you can go for it? And again, here we are doing a different version of that. What if the book doesn't sell? Oh, well, at least I gave it my all, right?
Exactly.
Like and that's what life is about, is taking a big swing. And if it doesn't, okay, what did I learn from it? And what can I do better the next time?
Exactly. And that form of self-sabotage that that you express, you see it all the time, and it's sad. And you know, frankly and sadly, sometimes they're enablers that maybe don't call you out on it or allow it or implement that in you, and you see it from maybe parents or coaches or whatever, and it's just it's a sad reality that it happens pretty often.
So, if we could, I love the vision boards. If we could, this was a year from now and we're talking, what happened to you this year? What's the perfect case scenario for you? Would you get signed by another team? Is that the dream?
Yeah, perfect case scenario. As soon as we finish this episode, my agent calls me and says, "Hey, you're flying out here tonight, and you'll be signed tomorrow." And frankly, that is how it happens in the NFL. You get a call, and they're like, "Hey, what's the closest airport to you? Are you healthy? All right, let's fly you out." And then you take a physical and you get signed. So in a perfect world, that's what happens. So that would be great news. The book doing well, and hopefully just inspiring the next generation of athletes. That'd be good as well. But like you said, it's just I'm appreciating the journey right now. It's just it. I am a free agent. Would rather be on a team than not. But by being a free agent, I was able to just do things possibly with this book that I wouldn't have been able to do, and grow as a person, and honestly just a different perspective of my career and how I could improve on the field as well. So
So let's talk
but
about the book. Let's enough
okay.
about everything else, right? Like, this is exciting. So when did you think, I really want to be an author? Why this idea? So you want to be an athlete. Where did the motivation come from to write this?
So the motivation for this book actually was during the lockdown during May of 2020. I was a free agent then as well. I believe I just got released from the Cleveland Browns. Every time you turned on the news, it seemed like something was going terribly wrong and somebody was trying their best to fix it. So I'm like, okay, well, how can what can I give to the world other than, playing football and, doing the things that I like to do? How can I inspire others? How can I leave an impact on this planet? So, I just start writing. And honestly, the book that So You Want to Be an Athlete was one of maybe like six that I intended to be one big book, but learning a lot from the point I realized it was kind of too big and too broad, and that I had So You Want to Be an Athlete, So You Want to Be a Lawyer, Teacher, Doctor, Police Officer, et cetera, et cetera. And I realized that as I shared it with my friends and my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, that everyone thought this one was the best, and it just made the most sense because I am an athlete. So I wrote it, and for 3 years, honestly, I just kind of sat in the files. I talked to my interpretation of poetry teacher at Florida Atlantic, and she helped me, tweak some things and write some things. But other than that, from July of 23 from May of 2020, it was just sitting in the cloud somewhere. So yeah, nothing actually came of it until I was out in Santa Monica on my honeymoon, and we went to a bookstore, and I saw all these cool like gadgets and like children's books, and I was like, I really gotta get back to that, and made some calls, and got in touch with a good illustrator and everything, and just got going from there.
So it's out in the world now. Tell everybody where they can find it. Everywhere books are
So
sold, I assume. Huh?
so we are officially in the pre-order phase, and the book will be the official publication date will be January 16th. But the book is available on Barnes and Noble and Amazon.com as well. And working on my website. Still got a lot to learn. It's a bunch going on there. So pretty soon it'll be available on brandinsbooks.com as well.
Wonderful. And what are you going to do some speaking? Are you going to go to schools? How are you going to roll it out?
So I actually I got invited to West Boca Middle School last night. So I'll be at West Boca Middle School. I'm gonna have some signings and readings at Barnes and Noble of Boca and Delray Beach, Florida. Got some things planned with the Boys and Girls Club as well. So yeah, it's just I'm gonna try to do all the local bookstores I can do, and if anybody ever invites me anywhere, I would never turn them down. But that's where we'll be so far. Just local schools, middle schools, elementary schools, and um, uh,
That's awesome.
Barnes and Noble of Boca and Delray. So I'm
Well, I've
excited
got a
about that.
few feelers out in Florida too. So if I come out, we're going to have to do an event together.
Oh, 100%. I love it. I love to.
That would be amazing, right? Yeah. Oh,
Yes,
that's
it
so
would
awesome.
definitely.
Oh, I love that your mindset and just getting to know you just through this call. We didn't know each other at all, but hearing your story is so inspiring because again, I talk with parents and athletes, young athletes, they make choices, and start specializing at such a young age. And to your point, they've been doing it for 15 years by the time they graduate high school, but they have so much invested in it that it feels like it's all or nothing. And if this doesn't work out, if I don't get this Division I scholarship right out of the gate, it's not going to happen for me. And your story is so, again, reiterates the message that if you want something bad enough and you're willing to work for it, there are ways to go get it. And so don't let that be the defining factor as to whether you get your dream or not.
Yes, yes, and it's just it's just so because the world tells you to the contrary of that. Everything you see, everything you see. If even the best athletes we see, whether it's Miles Garrett, LeBron James, Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Michael Phelps, the list goes on and on and on. No matter what we see, we only see the finished product. We never see what these guys have done, for the last 10 years, the last 8 years, and all the work it took. And that's why sometimes as an NFL athlete, like it kind of I understand it, but it kind of bothers me deep down. Like someone come up to you and say, "Man, you're so lucky, man. Like I wish I was
Mm.
born with the gifts you were born with. I would have been an NFL Hall of Famer or this or that." And it's just like, man, you just you only see the end result. You have no clue what myself or these other people have done for the last 10, 15, 20 years. You just never know, man. You just never know how hard it was, and the trials and the adversity that someone faced throughout their career. All you see is the finished result. So it's just I just would hope that this book or this conversation or the kids or anybody can realize that the final result is very misleading. You have
Yeah.
to you put in a lot of work, and not only that, your peers at your age right now, a lot of them, like we spoke about earlier, a lot of ones they're good now, the child proteges, they won't be the ones that make it the farthest. They won't be the ones that play the longest, and in a couple years, they may not even be the best anymore. So, and not to discount the child proteges as well, because we don't know how hard they've worked, to be
No.
considered a child protege. So it's just everything's so misleading, and it's just I think it's just cool for everyone to realize, like, you got to put in the work to see the results, no matter what it is.
What do you think about luck? I think there is always an element of luck, but I think you also make your own luck. And I'm guessing just hearing you talk about the opportunities that you had, you obviously made some choices to not do some things too. Like there probably were some parties or proms or dances or whatever going out with the guys that you didn't do so that you could get what you wanted in the long run.
Yeah. So to touch on the luck part first, like you said, you make your own luck, and I'm a firm believer of that. You see what's lucky, and I see years of preparation. You see, okay, it's lucky. Brandon didn't have any Division I scholarships, and he's been in the NFL for 8 years. He's so lucky. I see, okay, yeah, I tore two ACLs, went to junior college, went to the Canadian League, been cut 8 times, and I'm seeing, okay, this week I had a good game, and everybody may see it, and they're like, "Oh, he's so lucky. How did this happen?" And so, it's like you said, you make your own luck, and you get what your work deserves. I had
Mm.
one of my coaches from the Buffalo Bills always said that you get what your work deserves, from Eric Washington. So I've always been a firm believer in that. And as far as not going out and not partying too hard and not drinking everything, I always knew what I wanted, and I knew that those things weren't going to help me. And I honestly, I would get more enjoyment from working out and going and doing all this than I could ever get from a party. Like I honestly to this day, like I'll enjoy going on a 2 mile run more than I will going to the club or to a party. It's just, different things that I've come to enjoy and, just not having those risks of, being out and in the wrong place, at the wrong time, or, somebody mistakes you from somebody else or
Mhm.
even worse, you're hungover and now you can't go to practice the next day, or you're not, as you get older, you realize how important recovery is and how bad that, lack of sleep and alcohol is for recovery and all those things. So it just, it was just, not that I'm a saint or that I'm better than anybody. It's just, I honestly just don't enjoy those things. So, I think that helped me.
And I think you have to get to your level and sustain it. You have to love the grind, like,
Yes.
because there's a lot of grind. There's a lot of
Yes.
days that nobody's looking, the lights aren't on, the stadium isn't full, it's freezing in Buffalo. I lived there for 3 years. I know it's 20 below. Nobody's going out, and you're going to work out, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, like you said, you gotta love it. You have to love it because like they say, motivation fades, discipline will, take you over those humps. So if you're disciplined enough to, even like yesterday, I went to go, me and my friends, we ran a 5K, this past
Oh, good
weekend
for you.
in Fort Lauderdale. And the next day I had to go, it was lower body day. And I'm like, man, I do not, the last thing I want to do is squat right now and do some single leg RDLs and all that stuff. And I'm like, I just didn't want to do it, but I just had to do it, if I wouldn't have done it, I would have felt terrible, it just even just even with forcing myself to do it, I know I would have felt even worse by not doing it. So just getting it out the way and just letting your discipline just override all those doubts and those feelings of wanting to relax and all that. So it's just and it's a lifelong battle. You always it's always going to be things you don't want to do.
That's so funny. I was just having this exact conversation with my middle son as a freshman in college playing basketball, and we're talking about habits and forming good habits. And I'm 54 in a couple of weeks, and I'm like, I need to be lifting more in order to maintain muscle mass. And so I committed to myself, and I was having the exact conversation on the way to the gym. You're going to be happy when this is over. You're going to go do the
Yeah,
leg workout, and you're going to love it. And when it's done, you're going to be so proud of yourself. And like having that little, and then sure enough, it's 6:30. Yeah, but it's 6:30. I don't really want to just shut up, go to the gym, do the class.
yeah,
And then I said, sure enough, on the way home, you're like, oh, I'm so proud of myself, and I did it. And it's fake it till you make it, or whatever you want
yep,
to call it. But I just said, okay, non-negotiable. I'm going to do lifting 5 days a week for this month of January, and we'll see what the results are, and then we can talk about whether it's working or not. But we have
yeah,
so much about, I'm going to do it once, and then I want the results, and like
exactly.
it doesn't work that way, right?
Sure
You
does it.
got to
It
love
sure
the
does it.
grind. Yeah.
You gotta love it, and like they say, you'll either have to deal with the pain of discipline or the pain of sacrifice or the pain of regret. Yeah, that's
Lack
what
of
it is.
discipline. Yeah, yeah, there you
Yeah,
go. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's we all deal with it maybe consciously or subconsciously one way or another. Whether you're working at Amazon, Google, or playing in the NFL, or you just want your fitness goals, we all have to deal with it. So it's cool to see it though when you finally do develop those good habits and you see them taking over and you're not relying on the motivation, but you just have it. Like you just don't feel right if you don't do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You touched on one of your coaches, and that made me think, wow, to have been played middle school or whatever, all the way from 7 through high school, through college, through all the pro. Is there a coach or a teacher? Like you've always had some amazing professors as well, that comes to mind as someone like who inspired you the most and why? What was it about them that touched you?
So it's so many people, Jeff Sims, the coach who was at Fort Scott. Um, my father, was a very disciplined guy. Um, whether it's sports psychologist for the Buffalo Bills or, my friend Barb Schmidt, who teaches in wellness and meditation and mindfulness. I've just learned so many things from all these people that have helped me, grow as a person and grow as a player. But I, I, I gotta go with Jeff Sims at this point, who was the coach of Fort Scott, who brought me to FAU, because it was just so tough. And I know he left Fort Scott, um, maybe like the first semester after I got there, but it was just the things that, he would tell us as players. Like I remember it was maybe my first or second day at Fort Scott, and I wake up and everything at Fort Scott started. It was like the military. Everything started 30 minutes early. So if they told you to be there at 5:45, you had to be there at 5:15. If you weren't there at 5:15, they would
You're late.
literally make, yes, and by being late, they would make you run to Walmart. Like run to Walmart and grab a shopping bag and come back. And just like what? So I just remember my first day, and I'm there, and I'm in the cafeteria, and we're doing roll call. Oh, sorry, and we're doing the attendance check, and he's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "I'm just not a morning person." And he was like, "You will be," and I'm like, "Okay, I guess I will." And then literally that always stuck with me. Like every day I'm tired, he's like, "You will be, you will be," and then I start going to sleep earlier, and then I start waking up feeling better, and then it just got easier. And just the things that they implemented us in Fort Scott, just it was the hardest thing that I to this day. It was the hardest program, the hardest thing that I've ever been to, and it's just learning how to deal with it, and just getting through it. We just learned so much. So I have to credit Coach Jeff Sims in that aspect, and to this day, man, he texts me every holiday season, every birthday,
Aw.
happy birthday, Merry Christmas, all that. So, just that was huge, though. Definitely a big part of my journey.
Coaches, I'm teachers, but both. But to have a coach in your life, and my college coach that I played for at William and Mary, same. I talk to her every month. Like she's one of my best friends. She was in my wedding. Like to have those kind of people that can become so foundational for who you become as a person, I think are so inspiring and inspire us to do the work that we do too, to hopefully inspire the next generation
Yes.
of athletes and parents and everything. So Brandin, this is so fun. I have one last question for you. I know you got better things to do because your phone's going to be ringing pretty quickly. So you're going to have your agent calling. So I want to wrap
Yeah.
this up with the question that we ask all of our guests. How would you finish this sentence? The best athletes I know do this. And it can be a word, it can be a phrase, it can be a story. There is no wrong answer. But what comes to mind when with all of your experience, the best athletes do what?
The best athletes I know have a routine. They have a
Mm-hmm.
routine, and it's an unwavering routine, no matter what it is. If it's Christmas, if it's New Year, if it's my birthday, if I'm out of town, no matter what it is, I'm gonna find a way to do it. And that routine will vary, from subject to subject, no matter who it is. But they have it and they stick to it, and they know that by relying on that routine, that they'll, ultimately they'll turn into the player and get the results that they want.
I love that. I'm a huge fan of that as well. And I have a morning routine, and every day try to do the same thing. You meditate, you pray, you journal about your day as if it's already happened. And then you get to live it. Like I had this conversation with you at 5:30 this morning, and it was the most beautiful thing. Like I knew that this was going to happen, and it got me so excited for this. And then you get to live out what it is you're actually visioning, and that's such a
Yes,
beautiful thing.
yes.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be with me and share your story with us. And I know you're going to be so inspiring to so many. Can you tell everybody where they can find you and hear where you're going to be going next?
So right now you can find me on Instagram and Twitter. My name is L_Sacco, EL_SACKO. And also, the book page is Brandin's Books, on Instagram. So you can find me at those two places, and the website, brandinsbooks.com, will be launching any day now.
Yay. Well, I can't wait when it's out. I'm going to please send me links. We want to post it on my page and on Substack and get everybody to buy it. All of my listeners are exactly your people.
Great, great. I will. Thank you, and I appreciate the support, and I appreciate you for having me. And I look forward to reading your book as well.
Thank you. I'll just send you a copy.
Okay, cool, cool.
Parents, athletes, coaches, anyone listening, please share, DM me. I'm Kirsten Jones Coach. If you have questions for Brandin, let me know. We love getting questions and hearing topics. And if you can think of other people you would love to hear from, I'm always interested in meeting new people and sharing the stories that we are all trying to learn and grow. We fail, we stand up, we do it all over again. That's what this whole journey is about. So thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon. Let's do
Thank
this.
you.
There's something we need to ask you today that will help us out. And that is to take 30 seconds to make sure you're following the show. There's a weird thing that happened with the latest Apple update, and it's kicked a lot of people out of the hashtag Raising Athletes land. They've been paused. So we need to make sure you aren't paused. I was paused, and it's my podcast. To check and see if it's happened to you, Apple listeners, listen up. Open up your podcast app, search hashtag Raising Athletes, and select our show page. In the top right corner, you may see a pause symbol. Tap the pause symbol and hit resume. If you see a download symbol, you can go to settings and automatically download episodes. If you see a plus symbol, please tap and follow the show. If you do this, new episodes will come up automatically in your feed, and we love to have you following along. Thanks so much. Go to hashtag Raising Athletes Show page on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and type the plus sign in the upper right-hand corner and click to follow on. And you know what? Tell your friends, or maybe send them a link to your favorite episode of the show. Thank you so much for following along. We love and appreciate you all.